Hello, welcome to HITC Sport. Alright, this is a historic moment. Right now, you're about to witness one of the first ever videos ever paying tribute to Joelinton. Someone who most of football has already decided is just some 200-pound walking crisp packet. Honestly, any football media content, or Christ above, even bumper sticker on the fridge, praising Joelinton. It's rarer than finding a decent Katy Perry song. Christ above, they all sound like cows giving birth. This must be what it was like to watch someone land on the moon. I don't care if YouTube is too niche for Joelinton. I don't care if a multi-millionaire footballer like him thinks that YouTube is for nerds. I'm sorry, trying to find a video or even a tweet praising that man over the last 3 years. No, I'm sorry, that's like stumbling upon a 5-star review for any Eddie Murphy film made after 2001. I mean, honestly, even the Shrek sequels make me feel like ironing my own teeth. But I'm sorry, this is a historic moment in football. How often does a man discover that his best position is as a central midfielder at 25 years of age? Christ above, that poor boy is halfway to 50. How has nobody ever played him in the middle of the park before? Even at Hoffenheim and Rapid Vienna, the man was largely played up front, despite having the attacking threat of a slice of banana bread. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and just pretend that every manager Joelinton has had the brains of an elderly tortoise. No, it'd be a bit easy to write them all off as other versions of Steve Bruce, a man whose entire tactical knowledge could probably be scribbled on the back of a Burger King menu. No, this man, he worked under Julian Nagelsmann. You know, the Doogie Howser of the sport, the current Bayern Munich boss, and clearly played well enough under him to command a £40 million price tag. And right now, under Eddie Howball, he is absolutely class, shoving the words of the Geordies right up their nose, to the point where it probably feels like an antigen test.
£40 million, and we're paying him to smash the ball in Rosehead. It's a joke. He doesn't even look like a footballer, I mean a striker, man. He loses every touch.
Would he get in Rochdale's team? Would he get in front of Wilbraham?
He's awful. I'm sorry, but he is. He looks uninterested. He's got no natural goal scoring ability.
What a waste of £40 million we have spent on this lad.
I would say bring back Horsey. £40 million for that money, you're having a laugh.
I know somebody who thinks that Joelinton is so bad that he's playing in a different sport, that he's just somewhat about as naturally talented as the writers for Mrs. Brown's Boys, that an empty box of Weetabix would be more effective in the middle of the pitch, that he's probably better at basketball than he is football. Well, now let's, oh please, everyone, okay? If you do leave a comment in the comment section below, just try and sign off every comment with this: Suad, we told you so. Come on, let's make the entire comment section below look like a wall of proof that Joelinton is a fierce footballer. I mean, this video is an anomaly. I hope Joelinton watches it, because honestly, it's the only video out there defending him with such ferocity. I mean, honestly, after that performance against Man United, anybody who dares to say a bad word about this man from here on out, I'm willing to die on this hill for Joelinton. Come on then, where's your Joelinton haters? Come meet me in the Tesco car park, alright? Who am I kidding? I wouldn't be able to punch a birthday cake. But the disrespect for Joelinton, even in the post-match interview on Sky last night, Jeff Shreves, the first thing out of his mouth was,
I didn't realise you were that good.
Oh, what a nice thing to say 2 days after Christmas. I mean, that interviewer couldn't be more patronising unless he patted him on the head and gave him a £5 note for the bus. Christ above. Listen, Mike Ashley was weird with money. I mean, the man continued to sit in his hands for most transfer windows, usually not letting the Newcastle managers spend anything more than a Costa Coffee coupon, which is why suddenly, sanctioning a £40 million deal for Joelinton, it was weird. It's like when your stingy grandmother, the one who only ever gave you a pair of socks and a bag of stones for your birthday, well, that was like suddenly Christmas Day comes around and she suddenly now gives you a £500 toilet for the kitchen. It's confusing. £40 million on Joelinton, someone who nobody knew. I mean, the same way Ashley agreed to launch a £35 million bid for Lille's Boubacar Samar, who similarly has also gone on to look like a headless duck in the Premier League. But I'm sorry, ever since Joelinton arrived at Newcastle, it's been embarrassing. Yes, the man is 6'1". He looks like he probably eats 7 baby cows for dinner. He probably lives by cornflakes and protein powder for breakfast. I mean, this guy, he's got the physique of Superman. I can understand why Steve Bruce would want to stick that up front. I mean, to him, he was probably the modern day answer to Emile Heskey. Someone who Bruce loves so much would probably agree to lick peanut butter off his tie.
Anyone writing off Joelinton after 2 games is mental. Look at Wesley tonight. He will score this weekend.
Oh, Christ above, even me! I remember thinking he was going to be a top-class centre forward. He looked like he would be. But, oh no, Christ above, what even was this tweet? I mean, look at Wesley tonight. Ooh, Wesley Snipes? Christ above, I sure hope Blade 2 was on the telly that night. Because otherwise, if I was using Wesley Moraes as an example of a Brazilian success story in the Premier League, what? What, that Aston Villa cabbage who's got knee cartilage probably resembling wet shepherd's pie? But good grace, as a striker, Joelinton looked like a chunky beanbag, often showing the first touch of a sausage roll. Honestly, this man came from Brazil. Are you sure? Someone check his passport, because honestly, you swear he was dragged out of a bin bag in Stoke. Honestly, this was a £40 million centre forward about to wait 11 months to score his first Premier League goal at St James's Park. And that was in mid-June against a bunch of demoralised human balloons in Sheffield United. For the financially starved Newcastle fans, £40 million is a mammoth chunk of cash to spend on anybody. That was nearly 3 Alan Shearers. I mean, sure, many people didn't have a clue who he was, but it didn't matter. Ashley could have written a £40 million paycheck for some fat left back who looks like Danny DeVito and mostly stinks of Pop-Tarts. And Newcastle fans would still be running out to get him on the back of their shirt. I mean, it doesn't take much to excite the Geordies. Christ above, Mickey Almiron came from the MLS, and still the excitement was ridiculous. Even bringing in a chunky Danny Rose on loan caused most of the Geordies to wet their pants on the couch. And honestly, these days, he's about as much use as an empty tube of Pringles. But sticking a man of Joelinton's such obvious midfield talents up front, no, what a waste. It's like if Pixar got Steve Jobs to just clean the toilets on the set of Toy Story. Or if the CEO of a tennis club employed Emma Raducanu to just milk the cows on a farm on the opposite side of the road. I mean, this is like getting the actor of Back to the Future to not act in the movie, instead just to hold the camera. Wouldn't be a great idea. Putting a centre midfielder who cannot score goals up front, this makes no sense to me. It's about as clever as sticking Liam Neeson on the set of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I mean, he wouldn't make a very believable Uncle Phil. What? Steve Bruce is probably sitting at home right now thinking,
Oh yes, centre midfield, of course! Why didn't I think of that?
Because Steve, you probably don't think about too much else other than how many Jaffa cakes you can eat in one sitting. I mean, Bruce tried to stick Ryan Fraser in centre midfield before he did Joelinton. Oh, I'm sorry, no, you cannot play long ball football and then get the Scottish version of Tyrion Lannister to try and win some headers in midfield. That's how you get elbowed in the teeth. Giving Joelinton the number 9 shirt, asking a number 8 to follow in the footsteps of Alan Shearer. How was that supposed to help? Oh, no pressure, mate. Someone dangerously unqualified for the job of centre forward and being trusted with such an iconic shirt number. It doesn't make sense. It's like giving a knighthood to Colin Farrell. Again, he's from Dublin. He's not qualified for the job. But listen, this wasn't just a case of just Steve Bruce strangling his career in a dustbin. No, back in 2019, this guy was linked with moves to West Ham and Wolves as well. But make no mistake about it, he'd have been seen as a massive Premier League flop at those clubs too. Because Christ above, he would have taken the role of Sebastian Haller up front. I mean, that man is actually a top-class goal scorer. And even he, under that David Moyes system, looked like a static wheelbarrow who attempted bicycle kicks about 5 times a game. I mean, Joelinton would have just been a Brazilian Andy Carroll, who the West Ham fans would probably liken to just being a bowl of stale Dairy League Dunkables. I mean, Christ above, that fan base chased Frank Lampard out of the club. So after a season of watching Joelinton trip over his ankles up front, they would probably be camped outside his London mansion with bags of dog poo in their hand. And once Raul Jimenez was turned into the Mexican Humpty Dumpty, that's very harsh. But yeah, Joelinton would have been stuffed up front for Wolves, and by comparison to Jimenez, would have just looked like some hungover centre forward who'd spent the previous night staying up until 4 AM watching Josie Altidore DVDs. But this transformation is unheard of. It's like Cinderella. He's gone from being an ugly stepsister who couldn't get a match on Tinder to now dancing with the prince. Finally, you put on the right size of football boots. Right now, Joelinton isn't playing out of position in midfield because central midfield is clearly his best position. So whose idea was it to continuously stick him up front? Until he was 25? Imagine if you put Steven Gerrard up front for the first 7 years of his life. Honestly, this man is probably a better Brazilian midfielder than Fred. And yet Steve Bruce was trying to turn him into the Fred of 2014. Honestly, these levels of performance, get Joelinton in that Brazilian starting 11. Against Manchester United, this guy utterly ran rings around Ralph Rangnick's midfield. He was an absolute beast, looked like the best player on the park. And lads, Ronaldo was on that pitch. Christ, this man was not making Marcus Rashford on the pitch. I mean, I don't care if that guy is the modern day Willy Wonka. I don't care if he does walk around with cheese sandwiches shoved on his shorts, just in case he stumbles upon a bunch of hungry young kids on the tram. I don't care if he constantly walks around with Milky Ways in his pocket. And to be fair, that was something my uncle used to do as well. I mean, sometimes he hit a Toblerone down his pants. But he soon wasn't allowed within 30 feet of playgrounds. I mean, I don't care, I still got my chocolate. Amongst other things. But yeah, Rashford, this is a man who's probably got half the country's politicians in his phone book. Good crazy, he probably pokes Barack Obama on Facebook, but still, being nutmegged by someone many people thought was just a walking egg McMuffin. I'm guessing he spent the entire bus ride home back to Manchester wanting to punch himself in the teeth with a stapler. The embarrassment, he will never leave this down. I mean, the next time he turns up beside the local orphanage with a box of pizzas, I mean, then Manchester's answer to Harry Potter and Oliver Twist will probably start laughing in his face. Christ above, losing a Europa League final, missing a Euro 2020 penalty for your country, surgery, breaking your shoulder, and now being nutmegged by Joelinton. What a rough year for Rashford. I mean, the travelling Manchester United fans stuffed up in the heavens at St James's Park, they probably need to be reassured that that was Joelinton on the pitch. Listen, I'm not gonna get too carried away. Christ above Matty Longstaff chucked in a man of the match display against Man United 2 years ago, and right now we've realised he's just some ginger hobbit who mostly got stuffed behind the fridge at Aberdeen. Honestly, he's probably just a modern day Jack Colback who's got the midfield presence of Mr. Potato Head. But no, in this pressing style of football under Eddie Howe, trust me, Joelinton is going to wind up as one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. He is Newcastle's answer to John McGinn. I mean, Manchester United were once sniffing around a £50 million deal for Sean Longstaff, and 2 years later, that man's being linked with Nottingham Forest on loan. But Joelinton, keep this performance up, and lads, suddenly, apparently, the worst transfer in Newcastle United history is going to wind up playing again in the Champions League. Honestly, is it just me who thinks this guy would be an ideal £45 million signing for Liverpool? I mean, I know, who saw this coming? The Brazilian Shola Amiobi, Newcastle's answer to Alexander Mitrovic in the top flight. And no, that's not a compliment. This man used to cause the Geordies to bleed from their eyes, and now I genuinely think he would be a perfect midfield replacement for Gini Van Nijl at Anfield. Chuck him into Jurgen Klopp, and suddenly, this stumbling punchline from Brazil, he would be one of the best box-to-box midfielders in the Premier League. I mean, why not even Manchester United? Clearly, that team have been moving towards a pressing style of football, so maybe break up the spinach double act of McFred. Honestly, they look about as stale and laboured as Ant and Dec, who after 20 years of bad jokes, probably feel like drowning each other in the bath. I mean, break up that partnership and just stick Joelinton in the Manchester United midfield. I mean, yes, this sounds utterly nutty right now, but trust me, right now, we are looking at one of the biggest career turnarounds in football. He has reinvented himself. This is just mental. But anyway, absolutely brilliant performance from Newcastle, who should have won the match. I mean, most people assume that Ralph Rangnick is going to wind up taking the Man United job on a permanent basis. But is anyone really convinced by what you've seen? Sloppy late goal 1-0 wins over Crystal Palace and Norwich. And now this, Edinson Cavani having to scruffle in a late equaliser to stop you the embarrassment of losing to a team who've only won one match since May. Honestly, in the first half, Alonso Maximin utterly petrified their defence. The likes of Diogo Dalot was probably begging for mercy after 20 minutes. Honestly, this is another player who doesn't get the respect that he deserves. I mean, many people complain that he doesn't pass the ball enough. But I'm sorry, why would he? Who's he going to pass to? Jacob Murphy? Someone who's got the first touch of a block of sandpaper? Honestly, goals like that, slapping the ball into David De Gea's top corner, or the mazy dribble he scored against Leeds, these are the reasons that man does not pass the ball. But if ever there was any doubt that Eddie Howe is the right man for Newcastle United, I think that thought bubble has been crumpled into wet tissue paper and chucked in the bin. Considering the level of the opposition, the price tags on the pitch, and yet still, this is arguably Newcastle United's greatest performance since they beat Man City nearly 3 years ago. Honestly, this was the turning point for Joelinton. Going forward, honestly, I'm predicting this. Big money move to either Liverpool or Manchester United, and yes, he's going to be one of the first names on the Brazil team sheet. Everybody thought he was about as useful as a broken Buzz Lightyear toy. Anyway, that's been this little bit. What do you think? Alright, let me know. What do you think about Joelinton at present? Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and as always, I'll talk to you in a while.